Welcome back to Dave's Corner Garage.
We're in an area now where we have the presidential limousines, and all these vehicles here actually worked in the White House. Now, the one I'm standing beside is really an important car. And as the camera comes up to it, you're going to see this is the vehicle that President Kennedy was assassinated in. The car originally was a convertible. It originally didn't have this roof and top on it right now. The original car had actually a back seat that would be raised up so the people could see President Kennedy and his wife Jackie. And this is the actual vehicle. So what happened to this car? Well, after the assassination and after the forensics, the car was taken back to the factory and they rebuilt it. Now you have to remember President Johnson was the president at the time now, and they put up a glass protector for him. They put metal plate and bulletproof material on the side, bomb-proof material underneath. They basically made the car tons heavier. It actually is a completely heavy chassis. They changed the engine, they made it larger and stronger. And President Johnson had installed in the car, this is really a microphone. What he would do is he'd drive along, and if he would hear the crowd booing, he'd scoot along further. If he heard the crowd was cheering, he'd stop and he'd actually talk to the people through the microphone and through the speaker built into the vehicle. So this is the actual presidential car that Kennedy was assassinated, was rebuilt, and was reused at the White House. Now, if you look at the back of the vehicle, you can see that the bumper has been modified so that the Secret Service men could stand on it and the handles to hold on. The glass is bulletproof. Really an amazing machine. You know, moving the presidents around is an interesting story. This was Teddy Roosevelt's actual carriage where they moved him around through Washington and through different meetings. And the story of moving the presidents around has got some fascinating twists to it. Back in 1944, when they bombed Pearl Harbor, remember the Day of Infamy? Roosevelt had to be taken to Congress. They were afraid that the Japanese would have terrorists in the United States and that they would actually try and kill the president. They needed a bulletproof car in a hurry. Well, they had just recently acquired Al Capone's old Cadillac. Remember, Capone lost all of his money and all of his assets for income tax evasion. And they had in stock a 1931 Cadillac, which was bulletproof and had all the accessories they needed to protect the president. Who owned that car? Well, the Justice Department owned it, and the Revenue Department gave it up to the Justice Department, and they stuck the president in it. Bottom line was, they used it for a couple of weeks, and they decided, well, it's not a great idea to have the president running around in a gangster's old Cadillac, so they inaugurated supplying the president with bulletproof cars. Now, one of those vehicles is right here, and it's called the Sunshine Special. So let's have a look at that car. And this is it. This is the Sunshine Special. I had a problem saying that. Anyways, this car is original and unrestored. You should know that to make glass bulletproof, you take 2 panes of glass and you put vinyl or lime in between, and you keep doing those, and it becomes bulletproof because it'll capture the particles. So here it is. It's a Lincoln, and it starts the relationship of the Ford Motor Corporation, the Lincoln Division, and the White House. And it carries on for a long time. A lot of the presidential limousines are always been Lincolns. It's just recently that it became a Cadillac, and that's for the Obama administration. And I believe Reagan also had a Cadillac. But let's have a look at the Sunshine Special. It is a Lincoln. It's stretched. It's bulletproof glass on the sides. It's actually a convertible because they would put the top down for parades. But the size of this car is enormous. It must be 30 feet long. Now, this is the vehicle used by Theodore Roosevelt, and then later by Truman. And it actually is the first vehicle expressly built for the use of the president. Now we have a change of presidents. President Eisenhower comes into power, and it's time to change the image of the president. And here it is. This is a 51 Lincoln with a glass roof. It wasn't bulletproof or anything like that. It basically kept them out of the weather. right? If you look, there's a windshield up there, so when they stand, they can actually greet the clouds without getting the wind in their hairs. But it's, again, it's a Lincoln, and it continues the tradition of Henry Ford's Lincoln Division and the White House. Now, this car was in service until Kennedy came. And Kennedy in 1960 got a brand new 1961 Lincoln. This car was known as the Bubble Top. Now, the top was actually removable, and they could actually stand in it to greet their clouds. And because Ford Motor Corporation supplied the vehicles, it wasn't hard for them to reacquire them after they finished their use. A lot of these vehicles were actually, you know, for the Vice President would use them for a while, and then they were given back and used for historical artifacts.
We'll be back right after this.